Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we are going on a massive planetary field trip to look at life on Earth. So if you're fascinated by nature, or science, or honestly just figuring out how the crazy world around you actually works, well, you're in the exact right place. We are going to unpack the absolute basic building blocks of life.
Okay, let's kick things off with a little puzzle. I want you to picture a giant blue whale swimming in the deep ocean. Got it? Now, picture a tiny, completely invisible bacterium. Next, a towering pine tree in a dense forest. And finally, think about yourself. What do all of these incredibly different things actually have in common? I mean, they live in completely different environments, they look absolutely nothing alike, and their sizes are literally worlds apart. But, believe it or not, they share a fundamental, invisible connection.
The answer is that every single one of those examples is an organism. But, okay, what exactly does that mean? Well, an organism is simply a living thing that can exist on its own. It's this highly organized system that gets energy, grows, develops, and reproduces. So whether you're swimming in the deep ocean, rooted in the dirt, or just sitting in a chair watching this explainer, you are a living organism.
Section 1. Meet the organisms.
Life doesn't just come in one flavor, right? It is wonderfully, wildly varied. We generally see 5 main forms of organisms all around us. First up, animals. Think of a red fox darting through the woods, a sparrow in the sky, or that giant whale we talked about. Second, plants, like a sturdy oak tree or a delicate little daisy. Third are fungi, which actually aren't plants at all. That group includes things like mushrooms, mold, and yeast. Fourth, we've got bacteria. These are microscopic forms that can sometimes cause illness, but can also do cool stuff like help make yogurt. And fifth, humans. Yep, each and every one of us is an individual organism too.
When you really think about the sheer scale of life, it's pretty mind-blowing. On one hand, you have us, humans and foxes, and on the other, single-celled bacteria that you can only see under a microscope. You've got towering trees and tiny little mushrooms. And despite looking completely different, every single one of them follows the exact same rules of life as separate living things. So what are these rules? Let's find out.
Section 2. Cells and energy flow.
To understand these rules, we literally have to shrink down. All living organisms are made of cells. They are the ultimate, fundamental building blocks of life. In fact, a cell is the absolute smallest living unit there is. If you were to look at an animal cell or a plant cell under a microscope, with all their cool distinct shapes and inner structures, that is exactly where life begins. And the crazy part? Some organisms are made of just one single cell, while others, like you and me, are made of trillions of them working perfectly together.
But just having cells isn't enough, right? Those cells need power. And that brings us to metabolism, which is basically how organisms take energy from their environment to stay alive. Plants act kind of like little solar panels. They literally take carbon dioxide and use sunlight to make their own food. Animals, on the other hand, can't make food from sunlight. We have to get our energy by actually consuming things in our environment. You know, kind of like a rabbit munching on a carrot.
Section 3. Growing and reproducing. Now let's look at the incredible journey every organism goes through. Every single living thing experiences growth and development. Nothing just stays the exact same forever. Think about this amazing progression. Starting as a simple little egg, hatching into a chick, pushing its way out into the world, and finally becoming a fully formed bird. Whether you're a plant sprouting from a tiny seed or a human growing into a teenager, growth is a universal rule for all of us.
But an organism's life cycle doesn't end with just growing up. For life to keep going on Earth, organisms must reproduce, which means they produce offspring. Think about a plant making seeds that catch a ride on the wind, or a mother cat with a literal pile of tiny kittens. This amazing ability to create the next generation is exactly how life continues on our planet, unbroken, for millions and millions of years.
Section 4. Movement and reactions.
Living things aren't just frozen statues. We interact dynamically with the world around us. All organisms have what's called a response to stimuli, which just means they react to changes in their environment. Imagine you accidentally touch a super hot cup of cocoa. You instantly pull your hand away, right? That is a response to a stimulus. But even plants do this. Some, like the Venus flytrap, will literally fold up or snap shut the second they're touched. It's like a built-in alarm system for survival.
And speaking of survival, we've got to talk about movement. Now, while some organisms, like trees, stay rooted in one spot their whole lives, most can actually move from place to place. But why? Well, it's all about surviving. An eagle soaring through the sky, or a snail inching along a leaf, They're moving to find food. A cheetah sprinting across the savanna is trying to catch its dinner, while the animal it's chasing is moving rapidly to avoid danger. Movement also helps organisms find new, safer places to live.
Section 5. Traits and Survival.
Have you ever wondered why a baby animal looks so much like its parents? It's actually this fascinating balancing act in nature between heredity and variation. Heredity is the reason offspring look similar to their parents. They literally inherit genetic information. It's exactly why a whole litter of golden retriever puppies looks like the parent dogs. But nature doesn't just make exact photocopies. Variation means that organisms of the exact same species can still be different. Leaves from the very same tree can have slightly different shapes, and butterflies of the exact same species can sport beautifully different wing patterns.
And those inherited traits lead us to something absolutely crucial: adaptation. Organisms have to adapt to the specific conditions in their environment if they want to survive. Take a polar bear, for example. It inherits incredibly thick fur, which is a perfect adaptation to stay warm in the freezing cold Arctic. A cactus adapts to the super dry desert by having thick stems that store water. And migratory birds? They have an amazing behavioral adaptation, literally flying thousands of miles to warm places to escape the harsh winter. Nature always finds a way.
Section 6. Mind-blowing nature facts.
Okay, we've covered the rules of life, so now let's look at some truly mind-blowing facts about the extremes of the natural world. Did you know the blue whale is the absolute biggest animal on our planet? Seriously, its heart alone is the size of a small car. And the largest living organism overall? For that, you have to look to the forests. The giant sequoia tree towers above everything else, living for literally thousands of years and growing to unbelievable heights.
Now, I want you to think about this number for a second. 1. We just talked about giant whales and towering trees, but some organisms, like certain types of bacteria, are made of only one single cell. Just one. But because they follow all those rules of life we just discussed, they can live, get energy, and reproduce entirely on their own. They are perfectly complete organisms wrapped up in a totally microscopic package.
Now contrast that tiny number 1 with this number, 8. 8 square kilometers. That is the size of the single largest organism in the world by area. And guess what? It's not a whale and is definitely not a tree. It is a fungus, specifically the honey fungus, located right in the USA. This massive interconnected organism spreads mostly underground, and it covers an area of more than 8 square kilometers. I mean, life on Earth is just full of surprises.
Which brings us to our final takeaway. As the quote goes, an organism is a separate living thing. All living organisms share general properties that distinguish them from non-living things. From the totally invisible one-celled bacteria to that massive honey fungus, and from the towering sequoia tree to you and me, we are all connected by these incredible rules of life. We all grow, we use energy, and we respond to our environment. So the next time you step outside, really take a look around. Knowing that we all share these fundamental building blocks, how does that change the way you view your place in this amazing living world? Keep exploring, keep asking questions, and I'll catch you on the next explainer.